Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Paranormal Paradigm podcast. Hope you all had a fantastic Christmas and welcome to the first episode of 2021. Today we're going to have a guest on who has become a friend of mine, really. He was a listener of the show, still is a listener of the show, but over the past several months he's become a bit of a friend of mine now, and he's told me about his experiences and his interest in the paranormal. So I thought, just to thank him for the support towards the show, that I'd get him on and he can talk about his experiences and his thoughts, and it'd be nice to talk to a listener of the show, really, and hear his thoughts on the paranormal. So yeah, it's the first show of 2021. Hope you all had a good new year. Not so sure what this year's going to hold in store for us all. As you are aware, I do have another show, the Collective Conspiracy Show, and we do tackle such topics on that show, such as COVID and the coronavirus and what the future might potentially hold for us. Well, not just in this country, really, but worldwide, really. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, then please go onto Facebook and go to the Collective Conspiracy Show group, and I'll accept you in. And it is private, and the reason for that is some of the topics we discuss can lead to bans and can lead to, people being reported, basically. So we try and keep that a little bit private there. But if that's not your bag, then that's absolutely fine. Stick with me here on the paranormal side of things. We've got some good guests lined up for the first few months of this year. We're going to get Daniella Fenton back on. You might remember she came on with her husband Bruce to talk about ancient aliens and her experiences with regression and past lives and stuff like that, where aliens are concerned. But she's also a very, very well-respected psychic medium. So it would be really good to get her on to listen to her talk about her mediumship and her theories on, how it is that she can communicate with spirits and how she goes about that and how it affects her life. It's always an interest of mine, these people that have these talents, how does it impact your life? Because, you see these films or these programs where they wake up in the middle of the night to find, 10 ghosts stood around their bed, all kind of shouting at them, trying to be heard. Is that actually what it's like, or is that just a dramatisation? So it'll be interesting to find out from Daniella in an upcoming show. But yeah, for now, we've got Alex coming on. He's going to talk about his experiences in a house that he grew up in, and I hope you enjoy it. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Alex to the show. Alex, how are you doing?
Really good, thank you, mate. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely not a problem. I was just saying in the intro how you're a listener of the show, and over the past few months, really, we've got closer as friends, really. So you've managed to tell me your experiences, and you've managed to tell me your theories and stuff. And I thought it would be a really good idea just to get you on and just to get some of these experiences out of you, out into the open. Because I don't know if you're similar to a previous guest that I had, where do you like to talk about these kind of experiences?
I did find Dwayne's interview very interesting.
Yeah.
You could tell how nervous he was. Yeah, it's not something I'll go out in public shouting about the paranormal and all that.
Yeah, it's a tricky one though, isn't it? Because, some people accept it, and I've often found that people that you think will mock you for it are often the most accepting of it. It's always someone you don't really think about. They're the ones that will make snide remarks about your experiences.
Yeah, and I'm sure if any of my friends stumble across this podcast, they might have a laugh about it, but I'm sure there's something that they could relate to.
Yeah,
I think,
I was going to say that I've always said that, people say they don't believe in ghosts or whatever, but I guarantee everybody has a ghost story. Everybody.
Yeah, or just some experience that they can't explain, or something doesn't add up or feel right. Even that little shiver down the back of your neck.
Yeah. And that's right, because again, I've often said on the show that paranormal it's just anything outside of the normal. If something just doesn't fit in to normality in your reality and doesn't quite, as you just said so well, if it doesn't just sit right with you, then you always have to have that possibility, that open mind that it might just be paranormal. Right. So I just had a bit of a cough in my throat. I don't know about where you are now, but the snow's really bad, and the weather's been absolutely awful by us. And as we're talking, the snow is really, really coming down quite fast again, and we've all got a bit of a sniffle and a bit of a cold.
Yeah, we've got plenty of snow up here as well.
Have you? Yeah.
In the northwest. Yeah.
Yeah. I must add, by the way, for the listeners, that Alex is originally from round by me, but he has now moved up north. So he has this kind of, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, this weird hybrid accent of slightly kind of black country, northerny type accent, which is a bit weird, really. But now you're residing in near Wigan. And as a Warrington Wolves fan, it grieves me to say that, but there we go. So anyway, your experiences. So it's quite similar to my own, really, and not too dissimilar to Dwayne's, who was the previous guest, in that it was a family home, really. You know, that you would sleep in, that you grew up in, and that's really where you had your first experiences. So do you want to talk us through that situation and what that first experience was?
Yeah, it was a house in Chadsmore, just outside of Cannock, if anyone listening knows the area. And I remember we moved out of my nan and granddad's house, and we went to this new house, and it had a downstairs bathroom and toilet. There was no water or anything upstairs.
That's strange.
Yeah, it had storage heaters upstairs. Right. But it was a very old house. I'd say now it had a vibe to it, but obviously when I was a young kid, I wouldn't have, associated that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the toilet was broken, and I remember it had a piece of string and a plastic pipe you had to pull to make the toilet work, and I couldn't make this toilet work. And I'm shouting at my mum. Anyway, next thing, I figured out the toilet, and it's done. And we get back to my nan and granddad's house, and my mum said to me, "Oh, you figured out the toilet?" And I looked at a photograph of my great-great-granddad, Alexander, and said, "Oh, yeah, that man helped me."
Wow.
So that was one of the nicer stories from the house. It was something that wasn't threatening.
And how old were you at that point?
I must have been 4 or 5.
Wow.
I'd say I was about 4.
So you obviously at the age where you know that it wasn't your nan and granddad, basically, or anyone that was normally coming in and out of that house.
Yes.
That's fascinating. So when he helped you, did he talk to you? Did he interact with you in any way?
It's a very, very distant memory, and it's more something that my mum has explained the story to me.
Yeah.
Which again, you can go back to the whole debunking thing. It's just something that I've been told, but I don't see it as that. And I know from other experiences in that house, there was definitely a presence there as such.
That's interesting, that is, and I'm interested in how you now know, obviously as an adult, that there was clearly a vibe about the house, because I had that with my nan's house. My nan and granddad are dead now, but I used to hate that house as a child, and obviously as a child you can never really explain why. You just kind of don't like it. And now looking back, there was a vibe, so I completely understand what you mean there.
Yeah, I mean, every now and again I still drive past that house when I'm in Canada, and it gives me the creeps. And when I spoke to you the other day, I said, "Oh, we'll come and do this show with you."
Yeah.
It got these memories kicking back about this house. So last night and the night before, I've not been sleeping properly because it brought the memories back of this.
Wow. So this granddad, your great granddad would have been?
Great granddad, yeah.
Yeah. So this guy helping you flush the toilets was a nice experience. So you're insinuating here that you had more experiences and they weren't very nice.
That house was horrible.
Wow. Okay. Do you want to talk us through some of the not so nice experiences? And so I guess it's these experiences that have kept you up the past couple of nights as well. So it must be bad.
Very strange things of being in bed and being convinced that someone is picking me up out of my bed.
Wow.
Looking at the wallpaper and like it's moving.
Okay.
Being terrified to get out of bed. It's stupid o'clock in the morning as a kid and you wake up and you want to go to the toilet or something. And I know I have got to walk downstairs, down past the cellar, which, again, I think it's just spooky anyway. As a kid, you hear about a cellar.
Absolutely, yeah.
But to get to the bathroom, you'd have to go all the way downstairs, through the hallway, through the dining room, through the kitchen, and then all the way to the end where the bathroom was.
Wow. Just because they had no water upstairs as well, I guess.
There was no water upstairs. And it terrified me. And it got to a point where my mum and dad said to me one night, right, you've got to go to bed now. And I just remember breaking down, sobbing and saying, I'm not going to bed. Can't.
Wow, that bad.
Can't be upstairs on my own. I'm not going to bed.
Wow. So the lifting out of a bed is an interesting one, because obviously, again, as adults, we then understand and we learn about things such as sleep paralysis and things and how that can affect you, and make people feel like they're having a paranormal experience when they're not. Equally, I hasten to add that I actually think it happens the other way around as well. People are having paranormal experiences that they will align with sleep paralysis when it is actually something paranormal. Was there ever, looking back as an adult now, was there ever any possibility that might have been the case?
There's every chance it could have been. I like to look at every angle of it.
Yeah.
Of what could have happened. Could it be an overactive imagination as a child?
Absolutely. That is a possibility, yeah.
But I still, when I cast my mind back, thoughts of that house, it scares me. And I can remember having dreams, even recently, having dreams of being stuck in that house on my own, or someone saying to me, oh, you need to go and stop in this house. Or, when you have a dream and you're in one place and the next second you find yourself, you've transformed into another place.
Yeah.
I'm in that house and I'm sat downstairs in the lounge, and then it clicks in my head that I'm on my own. And then I'm like, really don't want to be here. I need to get out. And it's one of them that I wake up and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not in that house anymore.
So this was like, what, 3 decades ago now? So 30 years or so ago?
Yeah.
And for it to still have such a psychological impact on you, where it's creeping into your dreams and it's keeping you awake at night, just thinking about it.
It's not all the time. It's not constantly keeping me awake, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah, but when I do get a dream like that, it stops me. It has an effect. So,
really, you had that experience where you had a physical manifestation with spirit, really. You saw this man. Your other experiences seem to be a little bit more psychologically based, so the feeling of you moving out of your bed, stuff out of horror movies, really. Was there any other physical manifestation? Did you ever see any other entities?
Not that I can recall, to be honest. And stuff like this happened over, it was like, say, 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
Little bits happening, but there was always this sense of, what's the word, foreboding, over.
Yeah, no, I get that.
This area. I can remember stories that my mum would tell me that she'd come downstairs in the morning and we'd have candles in the candle holders and they would have been sliced. Like someone had took a hot knife through them and cut them.
Wow. So they'd been cut in half, really?
Yes. See, I've never really looked into the history of the house. Maybe it's something I should do. I know
that sounds quite. I mean, that's like, something being moved or something, not quite in the same place as where you left it when you went to bed. That's just fun and games, really. But to have objects actually cut, that sounds very, very strange.
Yeah. Maybe you should get my mum on for your next show. she'd be able to tell you a lot more stories about that house.
It's strange, isn't it? Because I often, as you will know, I often recount stories of the house that I was born in and I grew up in. And again, some of the stories my mum tells me from before I was born or from when I was very, very little are fascinating, really. And it goes to show that you're not mad, because you think, am I the only one experiencing this in the house? But when you have other people around you, family members who can lend you support with their experiences, it really does help. I guess it helps you understand what you're experiencing.
Yeah. But right, okay. That's really all I can remember from that house. But that was definitely the catalyst that started the whole paranormal thing.
Yeah. And the foreboding. I mean, again, going back to my nan's house, God, it was the stairs. I don't know if you had a particular area at the house that you're discussing, but with my nan's, it was the downstairs. I was fine, but again, to get to the toilet or to get to the kitchen, you had to walk past these stairs in the hallway, and I could never look up them. I could never look at the top of the stairs. And I slept there once. This is my nan I'm talking about, and I only ever slept at her house once, and it was horrible. I slept in what would have been my dad's old room, and my dad told me a story of how the handle would quite often shake as if someone was trying to get into the room when he was a child. And that's all I could think about while I was sleeping there. And I say sleeping. there wasn't much sleeping going on. So I understand the foreboding. Sometimes that can be just as scary as something actually happening, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, you've just reminded me of something when you talk about the door handle to give me shivers. We've got the cottage in South Wales. Yeah. And I always used to stop there over summer. And that always used to give me the creeps. And I remember lying in bed one night and I had a little AM, FM radio. Okay. And it was really late. And I've got it on, I'm listening to music, not loud. And then there's a rap on my door and I just hear a shh.
Well,
it wasn't my mom and it wasn't my stepdad. But that house has always, again, give me that sort of, that vibe of something doesn't feel right. Yeah. No, I say it doesn't feel right. Nothing sinister, not like the house in Cannock at all.
Yeah.
But definitely a presence that I could pick up on.
Yeah, and again, that's interesting because what a lot of people often think is that a house being haunted is a bad thing. It's an evil thing. It's going to be a demon, or it's going to, a bit like Dwayne's story in the previous episode. But it's not always the case. I know plenty of people whose houses have spirits in them who are friendly or they don't really interact with you. You see them, you hear them, but they just go about their own business. So it's really good that you've said that, because there are experiences and there are presences that can be felt that aren't necessarily evil or bad.
Yeah, it can just make you feel a bit uncomfortable. But that's
and I think
how they pull energy or how energy is transferred and stuff like that. It's going to give you goosebumps, and it's probably going to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. But
that's absolutely right. I mean, just the fact that you're potentially dealing with another worldly entity is enough to make anybody feel uncomfortable. Whether they mean good or they mean bad. There is that element of of being uncomfortable just because of what it is that you're dealing with or what it is that you're experiencing. Okay, so I guess you kind of had those experiences as a youngster. You're growing up. Were there any other experiences that you would have in your everyday life or whatever?
There was one incident when I was at my nan and granddad's house, which I always used to call home because that's where I was mainly based, at my nan's house.
Okay.
And again, this was a long time ago. It would have been about the same time as living at, being at the house in Cannock as well.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced I saw a person, a man, come out of the wardrobe. I know it sounds mad when you talk about it like this. He come out of the wardrobe. And I had a recorder, like a flute type thing. And I remember trying to hit him with it. And I've panicked and he's gone. And I've shouted my nan. She was in the garden pegging the washing out.
So this was in the daytime then?
This was in the daytime.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember shouting to my nan, there's a man in the wardrobe, there's a man in the wardrobe. And I've tried to hit him with the recorder. And I've described this man. And she went, that was my brother, Trevor. And I laughed now because she said, you shouldn't have tried hitting him with a recorder. He wasn't doing anything. It wasn't a threat to you.
So
wasn't evil.
You described him to your nan, I guess, and she matched that description with her brother?
Yes, or I said to her, it's Trevor.
Wow.
Again, it's very vague because it was a very long time ago.
So
but again, it's something
he came out of the wardrobe. I mean, when he came at you, obviously you've, I guess, natural instinct really to kind of lash out at something that's coming towards you that you don't know. I know it's difficult with how long ago it was, but do you get a sense that he was coming at you violently or aggressively?
No, not violent or aggressive. And again, I really wouldn't like to say because it is so long ago.
It's amazing, though, isn't it? You what you've done now is you've really made me think about. I often talk about how children do have these experiences, but they get wiped from their memory because they're told that they're imagining it, and they're told, "Oh, it's not real; it's all in your mind." So what we do as a society is we block out these experiences with children. Oh, it's an imaginary friend, it's not real, ghosts aren't real, they don't exist. So eventually you block it out so much that you just stop seeing them. So is it possible that we all have this ability to see them, like the experiences that you've had?
I think without a doubt everyone's got the ability. You just you get older, everyday life takes over.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
You get the TV stuck in front of you. Don't be an idiot. There's no such thing as ghosts, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I even doubt myself when I'm, telling you the story about the man coming out of the wardrobe.
Yeah.
I can't put an exact, this happened, that happened, that happened. But it's there in it's in my memory.
Yeah.
So there was definitely something that occurred like that, but as I've got older, has it been? I can't think of the word.
I guess it's been
dumbed out.
Manipulated. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's altered because of what you've learned or unlearned. Yeah. I guess you could say.
And it's only recently now that I've started getting back into paranormal and looking at stuff and researching stuff that the memories are coming back, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This happened as a kid. That happened as a kid.
Yeah, and that's fascinating, because not many people do that. Not many people have this, as you said, life takes over. People are working busy jobs. People have got families to look after. They don't really have time to revisit or to, just to research these kind of things, which might, as has with you, make their memories come back. And how many experiences do you think you had, or I had, or everybody has had as children, that is just kind of brainwashed out of them, so to speak, and that's not real, forget about it. Imagine if everybody kind of sat down and really considered what happened to them as children, the experiences that they might have had, and have since forgotten. Imagine how many more stories and experiences we would have.
I would guarantee everyone would have a story.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think when you're born, I mean, babies now, I'm sure they can see all sorts.
Yeah.
Or they're aware of all sorts.
Yeah.
It's once they get to that TV age, school age, and people influence them, then it starts to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, without kind of getting too conspiratorial here, because that's for a different show.
It is.
It is. You're right. You know that these things are kind of knocked out of us as children. You know, it's not real. And if you continue to see something, he's got ADHD, or we need to give him some medicine. We need to give him tablets for that. We never actually consider that what he's seeing or what she's seeing is real. And we both have children of similar ages. You know, 1 year old or so. And I don't know about you, but I often see Larry. He's kind of just learning to wave now. And so I often see him just waving into the corner of the room. And I often think, well, is he waving just because he's learned to wave and he thinks it's a good thing to do and he's practicing? Or is he actually waving at somebody that I can't see?
I'd like to think he's waving at someone he can't see.
It would be a nice thought. Yeah. Obviously, not that it's someone nasty, hopefully, but if it's my granddad, or if it's, you know, if it's a family member that's died and he can see them and they're coming to check up on him, that's a fantastic thought. But we don't know, do we? And he won't remember it. So it's one of life's mysteries, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because, you know, and again, he will be kind of on his own, babbling away, laughing. You know, he just laughs.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on. The TV's not on. We're not interacting with him. He's in another room. He starts laughing. So I don't know if it's just my being paranormal minded, but I often think, is someone in there making him laugh?
Well, I like to think of it as you put it. He is just tuning in to a different radio station.
Yeah, and he has that ability.
Yeah, and he's seeing something else in, you know, another spectrum, and it's just tickled him. It's amused him.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't laugh too much. He's quite a difficult lad to make laugh, really. But I know you kind of moving away from that. You said that you have an interest in astral projection, which is an interest of mine, really. It's something I was discussing with my wife earlier this week, talking about remote viewing, and that is linked with astral projection, really. Is this something you've ever practiced doing?
Yeah, I can't do it. I've tried. I have tried. But I think when you have a really vivid dream, that to me is that an astral projection?
Okay, interesting.
I'd like to think it is.
Like it's not just a dream, but your soul or your consciousness or whatever is actually having that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
I had a dream not long after my nan died, and it was before her funeral. And I can remember it like it was yesterday, this dream. It that vivid, you know, it's like I'd left my body and that was it. We was there. And we're going down a hill on an old go-kart, like what my granddad had made for me. And my nan's driving it. And we're going past the church where she was going to have her funeral.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to her, Nan, you need to pull the brakes on. You've got to stop. This is where you get off. And she pulled the brakes on and she got off the go-kart and she went off into the church.
Mm.
And
that's quite sweet.
It is. But I'd like to think, was that, you know, have I projected to go and see my nan's soul, is it? Or conscience, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started looking more into astral projection. I was like, oh, do you know what? If you can project yourself, you can go anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's the point, yeah.
You can do anything. You're not restricted by your physical body. You can just see who you want and take off somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, God, going back however long now, I remember our very, very first guest, Melissa.
Melissa Cummins.
Melissa
Yes.
Cummins, yeah, she speaks quite a lot about astral projection. And for our listeners, if you haven't listened to that show, episode 1, going back a while, she talks about this kind of astral projecting onto different planes, really. And if I remember rightly, I don't know if you can remember, Alex, but she kind of describes it like a game of The Sims, where there are other souls there, or other spirits there that are.
Did she talk about places where you shouldn't go? You'll get lured. Don't go down. Don't go down here. You'll hear someone screaming and asking for help. Perhaps no. Stay away from here. Go up.
Because it could be a trick. It could be.
Yes.
It could be someone trying to pull you into a lower vibrational field. I guess. I mean, have you ever considered that dream was potentially just your, playing devil's advocate here, was potentially just your subconscious, and it was you grieving, really, and that was you letting her go on a subconscious level, kind of saying, you've got to get off here, and off she went.
Yeah, every chance. Yeah, it could well have been.
Because I just find dreams so interesting from a subconscious level.
Yeah, but it was so vivid. I can just remember it like I was 100% in that moment. I was there in that spot, and then I woke up and I was back in my bed. That's how it felt, or maybe that's how I want to remember it. Again, you've always got to think how your mind doesn't play tricks on you, but it.
I think you've always got to be aware of your mind, haven't you? You've always got to be aware of the state that you're in. I often say this when people go on ghost hunts. If you've come because you've recently lost a loved one or a friend, you have to be aware of that. And I think it's important as well that they make the people in the group with them aware, because it could explain a lot of their reactions to certain experiences. I'm sure I've told the story of a close friend of mine whose brother took his own life. And she came on a no interest in it whatsoever historically, but all of a sudden she wanted to come on an investigation with us, and we were down in Drakelow tunnels, and she was hearing his voice apparently, and she was seeing him, and you think, well, where's that line drawn, between an actual experience or just her own manifestation, her own psychosis, really playing it out.
Yeah, because she's wanting an experience. Yeah. And
I think that's the problem with dreams is that I've done some research into this, and I've heard people talk about how when you dream, whether you are or not, you actually do astral project, and the dreams that you're having are just another reality, essentially. And then people and the difference between that and actually astral projecting is just knowing that you can do it. And therefore, a bit like lucid dreaming, you can control it, and you can, dictate when you do it and when you don't do it. And you can do it in a state of consciousness as opposed to being asleep and doing it subconsciously. But I think, with yourself and having that experience with your nap, there is an element of both, maybe, the letting go, and the actual, your consciousness or your spirit just having one last ride on the go-kart with her.
Yeah. But I think what you say about dreams, it does tie in nicely again with what you say about the frequencies and the radio stations and everything else, how it's all linked, because when you're sleeping you're relaxed.
Very true.
Very true. Your mind's working, so let's not just leave this body and go and have a move about.
I mean, again, coming to lucid dreaming, it's kind of similar to astral projection, in a way. But I mean, that's something I've tried to do. And apparently, I didn't know until not long ago, but you can buy these. I think they're like headbands or something. They go over your eyes. And it flashes lights or something, and it actually helps you lucid dream. and it's been proven to work. I've obviously not done it myself, but maybe that's something I could look into to help me. But wouldn't that be fantastic to know you're dreaming? But then again, are you dreaming? Without going too deep, we don't have too long.
Yeah.
But
no.
But what is a dream? Is it just the play out of a subconscious memory or a subconscious imagining, or is it actually an event that is happening with your consciousness, with your spirit or your soul or whatever it is you want to call it, and it's actually that experiencing it while your body is lying in bed or wherever you're asleep? What do you think of that? Do you think that that's a possibility?
If you can wake up and you've remembered it, then to me you've experienced it.
Yeah.
I was asleep, but I still rode the go-kart with my nan. We still, said goodbye to her. So whether I was asleep or not, it was still an experience. So I would say, yeah, that's living. When
that's a fantastic way of looking at it. That is, yeah.
Maybe it's just an extension of your life. That might not be the best word into it, but
no, I think.
While you're resting, you can be doing something fun.
Well, you're resting your physical body.
Well, yeah, while you're resting your physical body, yeah, your mind's out exploring. I mean, I've read stuff about how people have learned to play instruments. They've learned new languages.
Wow.
By doing lucid dreaming.
Wow. Well, they do often say, I remember when I was, again, a long time ago, but when I was revising for exams and stuff, they used to say that the best time to do it was just before you went to sleep, for some reason, because it would stay in your mind more. I wonder if that's got anything to do with it.
I would say so. I would agree with that, definitely. And apparently there's tips you can do. So many times during the day, set an alarm, say, for an hour, 2 hours, and just get your thumb and your finger and pinch the palm of your hand.
Right, okay.
And then look around your surroundings, and they call it a reality check. Yeah. To make sure you're not dreaming. So if you get into the habit of doing that, then you have a dream, you're meant to acknowledge that this might not be real. I should do a reality check.
Yeah.
And if you do it in your dream, you'll push your thumb through the palm of your hand. And then
you'll know you're dreaming.
Yes, you'll know that you're dreaming.
Right. And I guess just the very fact that you then know that you're dreaming is a lucid dream.
Yes.
And then you can control your surroundings and, I guess, direct the dream in any way that you want it to.
Yeah. But apparently a lot of people just wake up when we do that because you're like, oh, I've just put my thumb through my hand. It startles people. I think it's
I imagine,
it takes years to control. I don't think I'm anywhere near that point.
No, well, yeah, I mean, you make a good point.
I'd like to be.
I was just going to say, you make a good point that how many people want, they hear of lucid dreaming, of astral projection, of spirit interaction. And because I don't know if it's the generation that we live in now, as you know, everyone can get everything right now. You order something online, you get it the next day. It's instant. And people get into that habit. So they want to be able to lucid dream now. They want spiritual enlightenment now. And people go on journeys for years to experience these things. And I think it's very ignorant and very naive of us, or of some people, to think that they can just have that experience straight away.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. You can't, and you need to want it as well. I want it now. Yeah, fair enough, but you can't have it now. You need to work for it.
Yeah, and I think on a spiritual level, that is a huge plus point, is to learn patience, to learn, I guess, to master the art of waiting, to master the art of not getting everything that you want right now. You're kind of coming out of the materialistic world, really, and so I think if you can master that, you are part way towards spiritual enlightenment and having these experiences, because, you know, just wanting everything now for me fits into the materialistic world, the physical world, the world that you're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
And I think that's not necessarily the way you want to be going. I just want to come back to what you mentioned earlier about the dreams, and, you know, whether it was a dream or not, if you remember it, it's something that's happened. I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because, you know, ultimately, what is a dream? You know, who's to say that dream wasn't real? Who's to say that? And, you know, to very loosely quote Morpheus from The Matrix, when Neo asks him, "Is this real?" And Morpheus replies with, you know, "What is real?" Because if you're determining what you can see and feel, then that's just, you know, electricity kind of going into your brain, and your brain manifesting a reality. So what is real?
Like I said, if you can remember it, it's real.
Yeah.
Not necessarily real, but it happened. It's an experience for you.
It's an experience, and in the book of life, you know, when your biological vessel is taking its last breath, and you look back through your scrapbook of experiences, it's there, isn't it? And
yes,
and I bet, you know, without speaking for you, I bet that experience of you riding a go-kart with your nan is just as vivid in your mind, in your memory bank, as when you went shopping last week.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
so it is an experience, isn't it? It's something that you've had. Really, really interesting way of looking at it, that is, because dreams, I didn't really think we were going to go down this route, but it's such an interesting topic, because dreams are, you know, again, they're part of a subconscious. They're part of your what you're gonna. Is it something you're manifesting? Is it something that's happened? Is it something that hasn't yet happened? Is it something that is happening, as we've said, on another frequency? Your consciousness is experiencing it outside of your body, and just because it's outside of your body doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
No, exactly.
Okay. So, I mean, we've probably got about 5 minutes or so left now. I just want to thanks for coming on, really, because it was quite last minute getting you on and talking about your experiences. But, you know, it's been very interesting. I mean, I'd like to, in the last 5 minutes, really, I'd like to dig a little deeper into the experiences that you had as a child, really, because you say you told your nan about the man who, it potentially could have been her brother, that came out of the wardrobe at you. Besides that, did you ever tell anybody about these experiences? The moving wallpaper, just the whole, this foreboding feeling that you had. Did you ever talk to anyone about it?
I spoke to my mum about it, but she knew anyway. She, like I said before, she could tell you many more stories about that house.
Yeah.
And she's very open-minded on the paranormal. She's seen a lot more stuff than I have. That's a good one that's gone back to my mind now. There's a story of my dad woke up and she was so-called levitating so many feet off the bed.
How, like lying down on her back?
Yes.
Wow.
Really? I should have done a lot more research with my mum before I did this.
That sounds really interesting. So your dad just kind of woke up, rolled over, I guess, or whatever, and to find that your mum was just levitating, really.
Yeah.
And does she remember that? Does she? Yes,
it's my mum that told me the story about it, and I'm sure she gets quite creeped out when we talk about that house.
Yeah. Well, God, if I woke up levitating, I mean, again, that sounds quite. That doesn't sound like a pleasant experience. You know, we talk about pleasant entities and not so pleasant entities. That besides the great granddad who helped you flush the toilet, all of these experiences they seem quite negative to me.
That house was very negative, or is very negative. Like I said, I wouldn't want to step foot in there again.
No. No, and
unless we find out who has it now, we can go and do a ghost hunt.
I was literally just going to ask you, if it's not within the family anymore, it might be worth even just for your own kind of research to get in touch with them and just to inquire, have you had any experiences? Because it's always good to be able to correlate.
It would be interesting to know if they've had anything weird.
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
made me think, you know what, I'm not mad. This did actually happen. Yeah,
and of course, if it's possible to actually go around there and have a chat with them, because some people would be willing to talk to you about it. You never know. They might just say no, bugger off. But some of them might actually want to talk to you about it, and that might help kickstart more memories for you, as has done throughout this brief chat. Because I think two of the experiences that you spoke about just only really came to your mind as we were talking about it.
They have, and I've got a pen out now, and I'm thinking of this has happened, that's happened, and it's setting off all sorts of memories of.
Yeah, and I think as we said, I think if we were to do this with other people, it would do exactly the same. How many memories have been forgotten just because we've grown up and we've, whether we've been told to forget about them, which I think is the case with a lot of it. I think also it's just natural. You do naturally just forget stuff and you don't remember certain things that have happened. And it just takes this trigger, this one little moment to make you remember these experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we'll leave it there for now, mate. Really, really interesting stuff. I mean, some of the experiences you described there, particularly the physical manifestation of your nan's brother coming out of the wardrobe and your great granddad helping you reach the chain of the toilet, I think is really good. I know of paranormal investigators who investigate for years and years, and they don't have experiences like that, physical manifestation experiences. So to be able to have those in your memory bank is a fantastic achievement, I guess, really. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's not a problem. Obviously, thank you for your support of the show and for coming on talking about your experiences. And if you ever do, as you're writing now, I guess, if you ever have any more memories, or if your mum ever wishes to discuss any of this, then just let me know and I'll be happy to get you back on. Wouldn't be a problem at all.
No, sound.
That's great. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Alex, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, mate. See you soon.
Bye. So that was the interview there with Alex. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I say, it was really just getting him on as a thank you for supporting the show and to talk about the experiences that he had, and it turned out to be quite an interesting chat, really. Not so much an interview, but more of a chat. And I didn't expect to go down the route of lucid dreaming and astral projection and dreams. Really interesting subject, and I have mentioned to Alex off air that I'd really like to get maybe a specialist in that subject to come onto the show and talk about a little bit more about that, lucid dreaming and what are dreams, because, the more we spoke about that, just the more interested I got. I don't know if you could tell, but it kind of went a bit off subject, really, because that's a really interesting subject. So if any of you guys know of anyone that specialises in that topic, let me know, because I'd love to get someone like that on the show to talk about that. And the other thing that really came out of that chat that interested me was the thought of how many people had experiences or have had experiences as children, and they just can't remember it because, as I've said, either they're told to forget about it because of the society that we live in, or life kind of just takes over and they just naturally forget about it as they grow up and their mind kind of evolves. So really, to me, I think there is an absolute wealth of untold experiences and, I guess, unremembered experiences out there from people who would have had these experiences as children. And as I mentioned about my son, who quite often is giggling to himself or waving or seemingly interacting with an invisible force, and quite easily it could just be him being a child, just laughing or practicing his waving or practicing his talking. But at the same time, it is it possible that he's interacting with an entity that we just can't see? And as you guys will know by now, my theory on what spirits are and how they operate on frequencies outside of our visible light. Is it possible that he has the ability to see outside of that visible light? And some people then maintain it and they keep it and they become the psychics and the mediums that we know as adults. And those that lose that ability just become like myself, who, we can't really interact with that world anymore. And we have to go on ghost hunts and use equipment and tools to try and help us, unlike the people that have kept that ability and they can just do it easily enough. But yeah, so really, really interesting conversation there. As I say, the next guest is going to be Daniella Fenton. She's going to be coming on to talk about mediumship. So maybe that will help us get a bit more of an insight into what we've just been discussing, really. Maybe she will have a better understanding of it and help us understand it a bit more. Don't forget, guys, I do have that merchandise shop at Spreadshirt is available. So if you go onto the Paranormal Paradigm podcast page on Facebook, you'll see a link there to go to the shop. We're doing mugs, we're doing shirts or hoodies with the Paranormal Paradigm logo on. So if you could go there and buy yourself a mug if you fancy, or a hoodie or whatever. Let's get the show out there. Let's promote the show. And also don't forget, as I mentioned in the intro, I do host another show now called The Collective Conspiracy Show. It's slightly different to this show in that it deals with more, I guess you could say, controversial topics, such as 9/11 and all the conspiracies that you could think of. We have an upcoming show that's going to be talking about the Mandela effect, which is an interesting subject. So if that is your bag, then please join me there. If it isn't, then as I say, you're welcome to hang around here in the world of the paranormal. And I hope you've enjoyed that episode. And I hope you have a great start to the new year. As bad as it may seem now, I hope you make the best of it. And we'll talk soon. Take care.